It's carrea. I don't. He's probably just gonna lock in Leon at the last second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trundle, that's fine too.
Like that a lot. Trundle also very solid. You can, in fact, pillar people out of lanterns, and it is carrea, so that's probably gonna happen. Keep your eye out for that, as he is a wizard when it comes to using the pressure that the Trundle has. Do really like the gangplank here. It's not only a counter matchup, but I think it also works very nicely into basically everyone but Ezreal. Playing into the Ezreal specifically feels kind of bad, but the rest of T1, very short range, meaning that the power that Cannon Barrage is going to provide you is also going to shore up some of the relatively lackluster engage options that you have.
Also destroys Realm Warp.
Yeah.
Makes Realm Warp almost impossible to use as an engage tool. That makes sense. So let's see how it does go. Another look over of these compositions. Pioshik, last second, switching from a potential Lee Sin pick to this Nidalee. We'll see how it does go. Adds a little bit of poke there, adds a little bit of early pressure. It's once again the same bottom lane that was fine, I guess you could say, in game number 1, but wasn't enough to overcome Gumayusi and carrea. But this time around, it's an Ezreal Trundle instead of the Jinx Braum, which did very, very well.
And I am wondering how much early action we are going to see in these games. Because looking at the compositions, there is a lot of damage available on both sides. But especially early on, relatively limited amounts of CC, right? Like before Connor gets his ultimate, or if he's not in Mega, his setup isn't great. FAKER really on the side of T1 is the most consistent source of lockdown, and even his is conditional.
Yep.
And then if you look at DRX, it's a little bit better. You have Fresh. And I guess Graviton. So there is a lot of mobility. There is a lot of outplay potential, a lot of volatility with how these plays can go, depending on do the skill shots hit. When it comes to roll damage, obviously the DRX comp, early prior and topside, Nidalee and Lee, while the setup isn't great, if the skills do hit, their damage is revoltingly strong.
Oh yeah.
So DRX, a lot more to play for, I think, with this composition specifically, which should put them in a relatively more comfortable position. Whether that's going to be enough, considering our last game went, not sure.
Yep, we'll see. FAKER as well is taking Conqueror, so pretty confident as it sounds in that mid lane instead of taking the phase rush, which does add a lot of extra safety. Jet going to be taking Safeguard first to try and keep himself healthy, but it is going to be difficult into the Rise. That range advantage should be there for FAKER. Having a look at the win rates here, Canna 3-3, carrea 2-0, and 1-0 here for the Ezreal out of Gumayusi. Haven't seen enough of it. As of course, when it comes to T1 Ezreal players, we probably look to Teddy more than Guma for that particular pick. Looking forward to seeing how Guma's going to go on his second Ezreal game. So far, theoretically, you could say that Guma's win rate's better. 100%.
Got him.
Can't say no to that.
What are sample sizes?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them.
You don't need them.
Never been. Give me the lowest sample size possible. They make the most fun.
You can draw a lot of fun conclusions if you just keep your sample size small enough.
You just can't draw any correct conclusions. As long as you know that.
I mean, you can.
It's absolutely
it's
fine.
Probably
it's probably by accident. Yeah.
Hey, it's still right. Sometimes.
Canna continuing to have a rough time. This is, of course, how things go. Nah versus Gangplank. Gangplank should just be having a great time, as we can see. Just, yeah. Shooting him in the face. Every possible opportunity. Bit of a shove here for DRX as they get closer and closer to the turret, as Owner is going to go for a little bit of an excursion. And now, FAKER does have the control of the minion wave.
Honestly, I don't think these trades are going too poorly for Kana. Kingan's mana bar is getting taken low, and they have no idea that Owner is on his way top. That's a big wave that is stacked, so they need to be a little respectful.
Yeah, very hoppable as well as now Kingan. He does have flash, but he has no way out, and that is a super easy first blood to come through for T1. And Canna going to be helped out. Actually really like the kill going over to Owner as well, because Viego is going to be massive moving into the mid game.
And also buy some much-needed time. Like I said, I don't think that the trades were going too horribly for Kana, as Kingen's mana bar was relatively low. He was through all his corrupting pot stacks. A play from Teshrak would be really big.
Spear not going to connect. As Guma's looking to get back here. Gravitum did come through, but not actually able to be utilized. As we can see, Guma actually aggressively arcane shifting. And now we've got carrea clearing out vision. So T1 with actually quite a lot of control all over the map right now up against DRX. Hook will connect though, does find the troll, so not going to be able to engage onto that one, but Zan and Jin actually having a really good time here, as you can see. Zan finding the Gravitum onto Guma. It's going to be alright in the end.
To be expected, early power of Ezreal, especially with a tear. Not great. Carrea also gone for the more supportive version of Trundle, whereas we've seen him play the Halo Blades with Ignite. In this scenario, they don't ever really want to all-in lane. They have Teleport and Exhaust. They are just looking to get through this, absorb as much pressure as they possibly can. And as you can see, that allows the rest of T1 to play a lot more aggressive.
Carrea having a bit of a dance here. Taking a bit of time off with the old Trundle pick.
Just chilling in bot lane. You don't need to do a lot. Stand there, have Guardian at the ready, maybe throw a pillar or two.
Having a good time. Let's have a look at this one more time. Kingen just a little bit too far up in the lane, unfortunately.
And I gotta imagine that this is also somewhat of a pre-planned play coming through, right? Because Kana was trading so aggressively, and it was continuously baiting Kingen to try and gain an edge over him in terms of laning. And with Kingen fully opting into that, like, there is just no way he ever gets out. He's too low to ever really survive that gank. So nice coordination there from T1, and exactly the type of play that you want to see. And as you pointed out, it's really nice that the kill goes to Owner, because I think especially as he is able to find a next back and maybe pick up some steel caps, Kana's going to feel completely okay.
Yeah.
And now Owner can skirmish around the map, pick up more kills, which snowballing Viego is an absolute menace.
Well, you could see that DRX were thinking about going for a gank onto FAKER in the mid lane. FAKER backs away at the right time, Cannon Barrage, just to try and mitigate some of the lane control that Canna did have at that time, buy him some space. DRX are taking the dragon on the other side of the map. I actually quite like utilizing the ultimate there to make sure that no cross-map play was possible.
Yeah,
it's kind of done.
And ST1, you are completely... sacking isn't really the right term. You're neglecting your bot side, right? Like, you're not giving them any attention. Like, yeah, Guma, sit in lane, farm up, catch as much of the wave as you possibly can, try and soak as much damage as you can, and then Owner gets to aggressively push in. Might go for a dive on Kingen in a little bit, who just teleported back to lane. But you do need to pick up a little bit more than SC1 than what you've gotten so far. So wondering whether they're actually going to really cash in on that. In a minute, of course, Rift Herald will spawn, and then you can start turning this top side pressure advantage into an actual objective. Because so far, FAKER's up a bit of CS, courtesy of Rice's amazing shove, as another dive maybe coming through it, but nope.
Spear going to miss. Could potentially still go for it, as there is a cannon still sitting underneath this turret, but as you can see, FAKER was moving on down and has Realm Warp available. He's going to be respected. Gromp now just going to be the consolation prize for Teshrak, who is going to continue to forge further ahead when it comes to that farm. Certainly good news for him. He's going to lose his Grump on the other side. But not the end of the world. There's the kickback. Spear is going to miss as FAKER is able to walk out of it just quickly enough, as there's the Realm Warp, and FAKER is going to just walk out with 110 HP. Not even close.
Not even close. While that was happening, though, DRX showed their hand. FAKER's teleport available, and I would not be surprised to see Owner clear his top side and then try and look for an aggressive play on this Herald, as it will be the first time that T1 can actually turn it into a substantial lead. Do see that with Teshrak taking Owner's blue side jungle as much as Owner has been, you know, oh, that's sad. Trying to take away the top side, but of course Nidalee a lot higher in terms of how fast she clears, so using that clear speed as well as possible, but this should still be a relatively comfortable Rift Herald here. I think DRX can contest, but I don't know if they're in the best position. Kana is losing Mega Nardo, and looks like T1, even with rotating carrier, doesn't actually want to go for it.
Yeah, they do have a lot of vision around the area, so maybe actually wanting to fight, perhaps, as they will have very forward information about whether or not DRX are going to go for it. As you can see, carrier still sticking around. They're wanting to shove this one through one more time as Ona makes his way back towards that pit area. As Jun's going to go in, looks for Gumayushi, who's going to flash that wall immediately, but Pioshik just dives on in. That's the execution with the takedown, and the Ezreal is dead. Now T1 immediately diving towards Shelly. They should be able to take this as a response as Carrier throws down his trophy and just walks on out of there.
The Carrier just wants to get to bot side, because that's a very important teleport, and this is where, yes, you don't have the heal, so you tie to the gank, but with the teleport, at least you're able to keep alive your plates here, because DRX is just casually cruising towards a gold lead because this continuous pressure that they have been paying or have been finding on the bot side is so big.
Comes down, grabbing him's fantastic. Cannon Barrage connects as well. Like you mentioned, absolutely no heal available as Jun tanks up the turret beautifully. Carrier now in so much trouble, and that is going to be another one for Pioshik, and DRX now 3-1 in the kill score, close to 1.5k their lead.
And if you can get the first orbital, that would be so big for DRX, right? It would get them in such a comfortable position. As T1, they know this is happening, right? Like they've opted into this, into having no control in the bot side jungle, but Gumayushi and Carrier don't really have the clear available. Taeyun and Jun are continuously using the pressure that they have. Call down Pioshik, who's been involved in every single gank so far. Yeah, first couple of spears don't hit, as it will be Taeyun and Jun to pick up the first turret lot, so further solidifying their gold lead. Yeah, T1, they trade back, but they're still 1k gold behind the Drake. And this is looking like a great early look. DRX out-trading T1 in terms of cross-map impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was with a Rift Herald as well for T1.
Yeah.
So unable to actually get any value for it. So phenomenal here for DRX in the early stage. The Aphelios Thresh maybe deserving a little bit more respect. You already mentioned how good Jun was on this Thresh. And they just comfortably grab this kill onto Gumayushi and continue it even after the teleport.
Yeah, this should not be a shocker. This time, you can't miss a spear when there's a Gravitum ultimate, fortunately. So nice Moonlight Vigil there, and the Cannon Barrage just to make even more sure that both of them are very, very dead. And because of the continuous pressure that has been paid, Taeyun and Jun are able to reap the rewards. They already picked up a bunch of plates, which allowed them to even into a Rift Herald, pick up an early lead, and now Faker and Kana are still ahead. But that is a monstrous gold lead on Taeyun. And into the T1 composition, I actually feel like this Aphelios is going to be able to have a ton of value.
No, absolutely. Not exactly the most range here on T1 side. You've already illustrated. There's Pioshik looking to grab the second Drake here for DRX. Mountain or Ocean Soul available here. See which one it's going to be as of right now. See what we turn into. It's going to be Mountain Soul. Earth, Wind, and Fire, absolutely love it. As T1 looking for this inner turret, they do love getting these early inners. As True Shot Barrage actually doing a lot to deter DRX from the defense, and so that is going to be that injection of gold. Not quite able to get T1 back into a gold advantage, but going to even things out very nicely. As on the bottom side of the map, DRX is going to be stealing away a blue buff and looking to try and get this wave towards the inner turret, but not going to be able to trade back in kind. So it looks like Canna will be making his way there pretty soon, has teleport available if he needs to, but not going to overextend here for Kingen. So DRX still in a fine position. I think you're exactly right, illustrating that DRX probably pretty comfortable moving to a later stage of the game. We've already seen that Jun is very good at this Thresh. Kingen now has his Trinity Force completed as the Gangplank, and the value of the Cannon Barrage as well, like you said, going to be very, very powerful. So T1 do need to be very careful here. 1,000 gold behind. Of course, you know, Ryze can do a lot of damage. The Ezreal just always going to be relevant.
Oh, of course. It is a
still.
It's a game where if you take away the nameplates, I'd say DRX is in a splendid spot.
Oh yeah.
As Faker is gonna. Oh!
Yeah, not going to be able to get back into the Realm Warp this time around, as Faker's just going to get taken out This time, Jet is going to get the ult in order to cancel. That is going to be a very comfortable pick onto FAKER. Now DRX, what more can they get from it as this entire top side is available for them to take as far as all of that farm. Now the cannon barrage going to be used to mitigate a whole lot of the push here on the bottom side. I don't think the cannon was actually taken as Guma. Needs to be careful there. Severum is going to wear off, but now the long-range weapons are in for Taeun. The spear not going to connect, of course, as True Shot Barrage looking to clear out the minion wave. Not going to be able to take this mid turret just yet.
And based on how the last game went, you're always going to be moderately scared for DRX because in terms of raw teamfight execution, T1 seemed to outmatch them. However, I think that DRX are playing this early game beautifully. They're making use of the ability of Gangplank to soak pressure on topside, using the global pressure of the Gangplank ultimate in a myriad of ways, and then also punishing some of the less respectful tendencies of T1, right? Like Gumayushi not really respecting that he has no control of his bot side jungle. And just walking through there, getting randomly hooked. Then T1 as a whole not really responding appropriately to the continuous bot side pressure that comes through from DRX. And if we get to a soul point here, the DRX comp, while a little bit clunky in terms of execution, can also have incredibly high highs. And you see here exactly how deadly Jet and Pyoshi can be in a 1v1, 2v2 scenario, right? Like, even if Owner would be there, if you just 100-0 someone, you're fine. And I was talking about how DRX was playing to get Daeun and June ahead. Now starting to think that that wasn't the plan at all. The only person they wanted to get ahead is that Nidalee that's up 40 farm, has 2 kills, a ton of plates, and 2 assists. Because Pyoshik has been doing so much work here early, the entirety of the team rotates continuously to get him ahead, and I like it. It's a good look.
He's an absolute monster. Shirley going to be taken here by T1, looking to complete their Shellfish collection for the entire series. This True Shot Barrage.
That pillar.
Going to do a fair bit of work as the steal comes through! Oh no! And now T1 looking to try and defend the eye to keep their turrets alive. Spear is going to miss as there is the pillar. That's a good Nabah for Canna. He has an opportunity of trying to go in, but now he doesn't, as the barrel and the spear are going to connect. There's Cannon Barrage as Jet's going to pick up the eye, looks for the Q, but does not find it. And DRX, that was highway robbery.
That was beautiful. It's really nicely done. T1, in an attempt to pick themselves up another objective, now going to lose their inner. Might very well lose, or at least get another charge. Don't want to get for that, though. Maybe a little bit too greedy, and I respect that, especially in 30 seconds. Drake is coming up, and T1 giving up the second Herald. It looks bad, it feels bad, but it doesn't substantially change the outcome of the match. However, giving up this next Drake is not something you can afford.
No.
If that happens, DRX are going to be at soul point, and we have seen being at soul point for a team, you just need one good play.
Yeah, and then it all goes pear-shaped.
Oh, well.
What? What?
Yep.
야, 이거 눈가름 먹어야 되는데?
Get the eyeball, is what he said.
They did get the eyeball.
Indeed. As DRX now wanting to get themselves soul point. See if some of this poke can connect. Of course, DRX with a slight advantage in that regard. As Guma, let's see how many of these Mystic shots can actually land. Canna with a good Nabah right now, wanting to keep control of it, as now he's hit critical mass. Taeun's going to take a bit of damage, and that is going to be T1. Locking this one down. Canna looking for his opportunity, but maybe he's overextended. The spear connects onto FAKER, and now he can't go in. DRX actually playing this so beautifully, waiting to land all of the poke as the Na is going to lock down Jet, who just overextends himself. Bit of a disaster there, unfortunately. As Owner now turns into a Lee Sin. Spear, oh, I mean, Guma or FAKER were dead if one of these hits max range. As, yep, like the zoom, thanks Jonas Strong. Knows exactly how valuable that is as carrea slowed down by the spears. As DRX just going to zone them away, looking to take down this inner turret as a trade for the Dragon. Still trading up here are DRX.
And Jet getting over enthusiastic there, but still a really nice way for DRX to get something out of this play. Right, yeah, T1, they're able to pick up that Drake, which it's the first Mountain Drake. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. More so that you deny DRX a soul point. But then you see how much T1 needs to do just to not get murdered by those spears, right?
Yeah.
Like, the amount of pressure that comes through is immaculate. And Kana has flash available here, right? So if he wants to, he can actually go in for a multi-man flash. But the call here, I think justifiably so from T1, is like, we don't actually want to fight. Like, we got the objective. We just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then you see the splash damage combined with, we talked about these spears a lot, but it's also been Kingen's barrels, because even if the barrels don't do as much damage as the spears right now, they still slow everyone, making it so much easier to actually hit any form of follow-up poke. So it's just as T1, you see how much happy feeding is having to happen, and if one of those spears actually does hit, which down the line they might, they die. And then objectives all of a sudden might become available again. And if Kana...
I mean, if Jet doesn't go in there as well, I mean, that was even more of a win.
I agree.
For DRX. But, I mean, Kanna's always going to just knight you into the wall while you're coming towards him. So,
yeah,
a little bit of a whoopsie there from Jet, but you saw just how powerful the composition is for DRX if it's played right.
Because that was all despite Jet.
Yeah, right.
Not cancelling his Q with a W jump back, which would have been great, actually. Would have liked to see that, but that
would have been good.
That didn't happen. So he just got blown up. Getting a little greedy for the play there, as King presumably building... Ooh, I thought he was going to go for a Serpent's Fang, but let's see whether that's actually what he ends up building. As this is a really important spike now hit for Guma, who is going to get a lot more agency in this game. With that Moramana also finished and transformed, right? Because if you don't have that, Azrael is a happier, louder caster minion, and now he actually gets to play the video game.
Indeed.
Still can't get speared, and will not do as much damage, but...
Also has no boots still.
Yeah.
So wanting to complete those so that he can at least sidestep some
Horizon
things.
Focus is done.
Oh, that spear very close.
Oh no.
I like the slightly offset backing position there from carrea. Kudos.
Yeah. I wonder how much it will do. I'd say like 75% of the health bar?
Yeah, especially with carrea. But he's got a null magic mantle. He'll be fine, surely.
That's how it works.
Well, got a bit of Baron setup happening here for DRX. And they have a lot of forward vision, as you can see, just pinging out the area. They do need to get their sweeping done a little bit better. Still, you know, a patch of flaw that they really haven't gone over with the mop, as you can see. That ward still hanging out, giving a lot of information over to T1. Kanna avoids the barrel, but doesn't keep his minions alive, of course.
Maybe we need to make infomercials for sweepers, you know? Like, you can get this better sweeper, actually.
Yeah.
Just order now. And then you get a second sweeper for free.
Ooh. Buy one, get one free, only if you call now.
Exactly. And they also throw in something that you don't need, but kind of want.
Yeah. No, I like it. Tayan's going to take a lot of damage from that True Shot Barrage. Lands solely onto him. Kanna, with his teleport available right now, it's carrea. A little bit in no man's land. Walks into the spear, unfortunately. Now trying to get himself out of the way. Does put down his walkie-fasty ground. And he's going to be all right. Forgot the name of it at the time.
Frozen Domain.
Yeah.
Domain expansion.
It didn't used to be called Frozen Domain. What did it used to be called?
I don't know. I only remember Pillar of Filth because I know you love it.
I mean, that's what it still is if you play traditional Bundle.
I know. Okay. You also always mention that.
Yeah, good. Glad.
It is important because I would forget it otherwise, guaranteed. I've played League since like Season 3, but I've forgotten a lot.
I think I've actually forgotten more than I've learned about League of Legends now. After, what, 11 years?
That does make sense. The game has gone through a lot of iterations, you know. There's often those moments where, especially if you're a returning player, like, wait, when was this mechanic removed? As the Drake just gets removed from the map by DRX, who are now at Mountain Soul Point.
And T1 now looking to try and trade it for a potential Baron, but DRX might trade that for an inhibitor potentially, depending on what they want to do. But no, T1 aren't actually going to get over here and start it up, and Jet and Kingen are just going to take this into turret. This was T1 doing not a whole lot, and DRX taking Soul Point and an inner turret.
Yeah, the only thing that T1 got out of that is a little bit of Baron vision control, which now everyone has the back. So June is promptly going to, hopefully with some help, sweep that and take away anything that you actually did get out of that play. 2-item spike now also hit by Jet, who's going to have a lot more survivability. Still, should avoid getting gnawed into the wall, but outside of that, he should be fine. And T1's composition does run into some issues when they don't have map control and they're unable to find any flank whatsoever. Because when you look at actual ways to start a fight, it's very limited. Like, Kana with flash, that's one, and then maybe a pillar.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much it. As you pointed out, you can't really go for any super aggressive Realm Wall plays because the AoE damage between Moonlight Vigil, Cannon Barrage, Barrels is disgusting. And trying to outpoke this composition from DRX is not an easy task.
It's even harder when you've got Teshrak so fed as well.
It's insane.
Really has changed the landscape of this game with how well Teshrak has played. Has really been the star of this team for a very, very long time. And really is demonstrating that level of power here in this one, as the trophy is going to deny Taeyoon's re-entry into this lane. As T1 looking to try and get towards this outer turret, but it's going to be difficult. Wave being pulled. There's the Moonlight Vigil as Canna. Fadeaway jump shot to get away from Kingen as the barrels are not going to connect. Jet, though, he's towards the top side of the map. Should be able to get this inner turret on the next minion wave as it does turn up. And T1 not able to get anything from where they are. It's really looking like T1's floundering this stage of the game.
And after T1's recent form, I think we kind of drew the conclusion that the team as a whole had improved to the point where it wasn't really about ever playing from behind, because they were always ahead, right? Like, that sounds very obvious, but what I mean by that is that we haven't seen a T1 that looked like start of summer T1, where this was basically the default game state, where they were like kind of pulled around the map, didn't really know what to do, didn't find any clear avenues, just gave up objectives left and right without really getting anything on themselves. And that T1 we haven't seen because they've been winning every early game. But DRX finding, they got the scuttle. Only to give up half his health bar. So
Yeah, that's a lot of damage onto Owner there.
it is. Yeah, Teshrak is a terrifying Nidalee here. And it is a look that now seemingly, when playing from a deficit with a composition that doesn't have very clear-cut, we press this button and we go in type of comms, is running into some issues. And yeah, you can scale, you can wait for Guma to hit 3-4 items, and then look for a really big play of FAKER, of Kana. It's not all doom and gloom, but this is still a look of T1 that I thought we'd mostly gotten rid of, or whether they would have, but not looking too hot here in this game against DRX.
Oh, we're going to find an R into the wall, onto the Thresh. Jun just going to get exploded. Guma able to do a whole lot of work there as the Realm Warp. Going to get Canner out.
Look at bot.
Potential danger is, yeah, Kingen's going to trade this for an inhibitor. Throws down his Cannon Barrage onto the Baron as T1 still standing in the area, not sending anyone home to try and defend this one. Teleports available for the Gangplank as DRX can try and fight this one. 4v5, they can try and employ Baron to help them out there as Jet possibly able to get in, gets the kickback onto Canna who has the Mega Gnar, but it is going to be Owner that locks this one down. Now Jet's in trouble. Good wallop onto the Lee Sin as a lot of damage is being taken here from T1 as FAKER, no flash available, avoids the spear as the Nexus turrets are being sieged. The empowered backs are going to get T1 to safety, and I guess my question is, was it worth it?
And that's a hard question, Atlas, one that we're going to have to see the answer to over the next 2.5 minutes, because it is DRX again punishing the kind of slow decision making from T1. Not only is it slow, but DRX's comp is so incredibly good at just sitting from a little bit of range and poking away. Kingen with the Cannon Barrage, Teshrak with his relentless amount of spears that are being thrown, and in 15 seconds you need to win this fight as T1. This is the Mountain Soul that is up here for DRX.
And it means that the value of the inhibitor is actually a lot higher, as Gumayushi getting that damage onto Jun is big.
Kana still has flash, that's really huge. That allows them to have a little bit more reliable threat onto the backline.
T1's going to have to start something relatively soon if they want to be able to use Canna's Mega Gnar effectively. Control Ward goes down, avoiding the traps. As T1 grouped up as 5 once again. Kingen doesn't have his Cannon Barrage available just yet. As Guma goes in, that's a lot of damage on to Kingen. True Shot Barrage is going to go wide, but it is going to be a secure of the Mountain Drake. FAKER somehow managed to get hit by that spear. A little bit unfortunate. If I was him, I'd say that was a little bit unfair, but that's all right.
It happens.
He's going to be able to go back. This is going to be a very defensive Baron play as DRX have run of the map right now.
And this is a real nail-biter,
It is.
And that's I don't think that's what we expect, especially not after game number 1. But DRX, you can also see that above all, they don't want to throw this game, right? Like, doesn't matter what the series, doesn't matter that you're out of playoffs. You need to try and find a way to win this one game that is ahead of you. As when T1 are able to pull the trigger, they're fine. But then this play here shows how much power is available. The fact that carrea doesn't die is insane.
And gets into King's tribute range and gets all of his health as the Baron dies. That's very unfortunate for DRX.
Disgusting, right? Only FAKER never really gets out there. And while this is happening, like we said, you lose a turret, an inhibitor, and a Nexus turret. So that is a sizable amount of gold that you give up. So in terms of gold, not really worth it for T1. As
Oh yeah, completely out of position. He's gonna have to flash. Subjugate actually put down on top of him as the Lantern is going to get him back to underneath his turret, but it is dead. Kingen is once again splitting on the top side. We've got 13 seconds left on this Baron, so the Empowered Recall will get FAKER back home as Owners roaming up. So, looking to see whether we can collapse onto Kingen to grab ourselves a kill if you are T1. He's going to get into that brush, spotted now as the barrel comes through, fighting against Owner, as Kingen will be able to win out on that one, but has to invest his Cannon Barrage. Not able to take down the inhibitor turret just yet, but this 4-1 with Kingen in a side lane is working wonders for DRX.
It's doing really well, and it's utilizing the relative lack of reliable hard engage. Again, I'm actually loving that Kana is holding onto his flash so much here, because there's been multiple windows where he can go for a big flash play, but it's one of those situations where holding the flash creates so much more threat for DRX, right? Because once that Summoner is on cooldown, T1's effective range to start fights outside of a random pillar or someone getting caught off guard is fairly limited. And DRX are using that simultaneously, that kind of respect from T1 and the lack of ability as long as they keep track of the Gnar, to just pull them around the map. And normally it's T1 pulling people around the map.
Yeah.
So as at DRX, it is looking great. Kingen also finished Hysterics, went for the Collector second, so an incredible amount of both crit and burst available. And yeah, it's not about the gold, right? It's more about like the small excuses. Does the spear hit? Do you find the barrel?
Ooh, that was close to putting Jun on the wrong side of that trophy. Spear not connecting, but I just feel like it's going to be so important. If Teshrak can land those big spears, it's going to be massive. We've got a trophy down as well as the Mountain Rift Rock helping out here for T1.
He'll has to be invested there by Taeyun. So that is a big summoner now not available to him in the subsequent fight. Bigger is the lack of flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is why I am 100% certain that as long as they keep track of Kana, they should feel relatively safe. Has a big job here. Actually getting onto that Philos and slamming into the wall is one way to win. However, and this is something that we've seen T1 do throughout this game repeatedly as well, is that...
Oh, DRX, this is really cheeky. They're setting up to try and just run down the top lane.
Yeah, I was waiting
if
for it.
T1 are going to set up for the Dragon.
I'm going to go through with it in the end. Do take a lot of vision, and what this does is it enables Kingen, right? Like, once the entire top side is filled with wards, it becomes a lot easier, and you can also look to use that to get yourself some Baron pressure. But, already mentioned, outside of the flash, like, Gumayushi's Ezreal is well and truly online.
Oh, yes.
And, oh, that's interesting. He had a Tiamat, but then...
Sold it.
Or I shouldn't undid that purchase.
No, he had it actually while he was in lane before.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. That is...
Just straight up selling it once to get into the
Frozen Heart. Okay. That's a good catch from you. Thought that he only had his base as Taeyun.
Is going to be Subjugate on cooldown, but carrea uses it to keep himself alive. There's the dash on forward here from Canner, who's charging the Gnar in the meantime. Teshrak still hunting for spears. If that one had landed, would have been a lot of damage there onto the Gnar. That does
finished.
Oh, Guma. See, this is the problematic situation, and a Frozen Heart's not going to help you against these spears. Guma now wanting to get that health bar back up again. Spear, and every time you can see Jonah Strong zooming in.
He knows.
It is huge. So, T1, they are going to go towards the Drake. I love this. The evolution of T1. Giving away the Baron so they can deny the soul. As it's not normally what they would do. As, okay, let's see whether Owner is going to be able to pass the score test, and does so by waiting out the cannon barrage. I like that.
Not taking any risks there.
Yeah.
If you lose that smite, that is... Whew, that's a tough sell. And
hey, some of the best junglers in the world have lost a smite to a cannon barrage.
I mean, we've seen some truly ludicrous things when it comes to steals. Now though, 2.5 minutes of torture for T1. Can you hold on? Can you dodge enough spears and clear the waves? Because once that moment passes, you might be looking towards the Soul. Soul is going to mitigate Pioshik to a certain extent. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. But the siege from DRX is exquisite between the barrels and...
They have to wait for cannon barrage before they can really threaten. Yeah. You can see that's still halfway off cooldown. It's going to be a little bit faster now that the Caulfield's Warhammer has been completed here by Kingen.
Ooh.
He's got a lot of damage available, does this Gangplank. As, man, we are once again getting into very late game territory. This next Drake fight, going to be absolutely huge.
And I understand the fear from DRX, because you feel like you are in relative control of this game, and you don't want to give that away. You definitely have still have a real shot, but simultaneously not utilizing this Baron buff at all, as has been the case thus far, does mean that you're still going to be, you're trying to shoving, you're pushing the problem forward, but you're not actually dealing with it. Like at some point, you're going to have to commit.
I'll do it tomorrow. They're still procrastinating.
The deadline isn't so there yet.
Yeah. Well, Faker's going to get chunked for half of his health bar. Yeah, that's what barrels do now, I guess. As I believe that was a barrel, not a spear. It's hard to keep up with all of the poke availability. As Faker, yeah, he's going to get a bit of a zoom as he goes back and refills that health bar. He's got a death cap, though. This is a very scary rise. Still has his Void Staff to complete, but then he will be done. Full collection there in the inventory.
Also, loving, want to highlight that buy that we see there from June, the Watchstone. Not a pick that we often get to see, as supports are working on very limited money, but really, really nice item on a lot of supports in later game scenarios. Allows you to get an additional ward on your not your trinket, but your support item, and then also hold 2 control wards. And it gives you a bunch of nice stats, a little bit of everything, really.
Yep, just means that if you've got 6 items, you can still put wards down, as Guma is going to Arcane Shift to get himself out of the way of the Cannon Barrage, but now it's just the immediate turn onto the Nidalee, and T1 will just blow up! There's members of TRX that are here, but there's just not enough, as now T1 are going to barrel down the mid lane, and Kingen invested the Cannon Barrage, but there was no one there!
They weren't ready. I don't think they saw this immense amount of re-engage coming through, and now they might just look to end the game.
Immediate flash out from Kingen, who gets caught by the trophy. T1 continuing to push forward. True Shot Barrage will land onto Jet.
One cannon.
Yeah, they're going to try and keep these minions alive as best they can. And remember, this is 37 minutes into the game. Teleport to keep the minion alive as Jet's going to go golden. Faker just going to stand in front of him. The kick is going to do not a whole lot as Faker tidies up the Lee Sin. And they're just falling like bowling pins. Guma just going to be arcane shifting forward. Kingen going to be taken down. And DRX, they had all of the control. They were absolutely winning until their Nexus exploded before their eyes.
One moment of weakness is all it took.